Mr. Kiser, you ready, sir?
Yes, sir.
Understood. You rolling? You good? Done deal. Well, listen, y'all, we back again with another episode of The Creative's Crown, a platform here to promote, showcase, and show love to our working artists here in the city. And of course, we got a real deal OG, real deal Charlotte legend, a multimedia god, if you will. This man is, I've had the pleasure to see this man just work on so many different things throughout his lifetime for different mediums, and I'm grateful to have him on here. I want y'all to make some noise for the one and only Marcus Kiser. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Marcus, how you doing, sir? How you living?
I'm doing good.
Good. Yes, sir. Get the mic a little closer to you. I want to make sure I can hear you. Yes, sir. Perfect. Yes, sir. We perfect. 100%. Marcus, my dog. What's up, my brother? How you living?
Man, thank you, man. It's an honor to be here. You know, I'll do anything for you, man.
Listen,
so, yeah.
I'm super grateful. I really do consider you like real deal, one of my OGs, because like as a musician and artist, when I started popping out and started kind of coming around, you were one of like literally the first like visual artists that I saw out here and heard about throughout the entire streets of Charlotte. So you definitely have been one of those guys whose names have rung bells in the city from like all parts of the world. And parts of the world. Your name is out there like that. Real quick, I didn't give you the well-deserved intro because you're a man of many talents. Go ahead and kind of just introduce yourself, let the people know who you are and what you do.
So I'm Marcus Kiser, a Charlotte native. I just consider myself a multimedia designer and illustrator. And anything that falls within that deals with, you know, community engagement, you know, I'm pretty much all of those things.
That's heavy, absolutely. How'd you get into that line of work and that line of that actual line of work?
So my background, like, you know, my degree was in digital design. So, you know, since I was young, I always was interested in comics and cartoons. So, you know, that led me down the path of like illustration and then getting a degree in design and go from there. And I'm talking like maybe 20 plus years, maybe 25 years.
Yes, sir.
Of just, you know, design and that type of stuff. So I was always interested in like, you know, through the lens of like hip hop.
Absolutely.
Which is, you know, how I discovered you.
Listen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's crazy. You're from Charlotte, born and raised?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Born and raised, yes, sir. So with you being one of like the real deal like OG people being from Charlotte, that's one of the things that people say in Charlotte, that there are not a lot of people from Charlotte in Charlotte, right? So let's start out with that. How has that been a big change? Because I don't want to put your age out there like that unless you want to talk about it. But you mean you since you've been here since birth, how has it been as an artist? You growing up in the early parts of Charlotte and then seeing the change, especially from your artistic point of view, how's that been? Kind of give me that rundown.
So, yeah, Charlotte born and raised, West Charlotte High School.
Yes, sir.
I grew up in Hidden Valley and, you know, Druid Hills, which, you know, most people call it Camp North End now.
There you
go.
My
grandparents were in Camp North End. My parents had a house in Hidden Valley.
Wow.
So just those two communities. And yeah, I'm 47, man.
Yes, sir.
A beautiful 47.
Amen.
You know,
yes, sir.
I used to be weird about the whole age thing, but growing old is dope.
Amen.
But, and 47 ain't old.
And it's not at all.
So yeah, like, man, like I remember, you know, coming from the God City crew, which is probably, man, I'm talking 05, 04. And you know, we were just like these four Black artists that were into hip hop and comics and visual art. And, you know, back then, the city felt kind of quiet. And I want to pay homage to, you know, the super OGs like Tommy Robinson and like all those guys that came before us, Tiafo and like all those Black artists that paved the way for God City. But we were just kind of doing our own like hip hop thing and just watching the city change. There's a lot, like the city is like, it's very cultured now. Like I remember when it was hard to get an art show and, you know, and bring in a DJ and play certain types of music.
Absolutely.
And, you know, like that just felt like a weird thing back in like 02, 03. But now, you know, like I see so many so many people carrying the torch in the city, and like I'm not one of those people. I'll never gripe about Charlotte because I think I'm a dope individual, and I think you're dope. I think there's so many dope people here, and this city is like what created like who I am. So I'm on it. Like I'm happy to see like people picking up the torch in the city, even like places here like where we are, like the Vapor, to see so many dope artists in here, and like artists of like all types of mediums, like musicians, videographers, painters. Shout out to the homie Abel who upstairs. And Abel was he's an OG with us, so back in the day. So yeah, like the city's changing for the better, and I'll never be one of those people to be like, well, back in the day, but now like. I'm glad like those things were set, and like we got like this really dope city now.
100%. With you and kind of running back to God City and again having that access, you guys still make things happen. You guys were still out here putting together your own events, putting together your own shows. Give me a little explanation, because it's funny you mentioned God City. I go give you a little side note. One of the first times I ever met you and really ran across from you, it was back off Central. I don't know if you remember Armada Skate Shop. They were throwing not a workshop. It was an actual art showcase featuring, I believe it might have been either you and the late homie Francesco, or it might have been just Francesco's situation. But
Josh Henderson.
Yeah, and Josh, and that's who it was. Francesco and Josh Henderson. Rest in peace, Francesco. Shout out Josh Henderson. They were both incredible artists, dope artists in the city. However, one of the first times I came across you and really talked with you was at that location. It was at the Armada Skate Shop, and again, you were there admiring the work, looking around the work, and I was getting familiar with you. And I believe I was actually talking with Francesco. It's like, oh yeah, that's Marcus Kiser. He's part of the God City crew, and I was like, God City, that's what is that? And then as I got more involved, because again, that was my first intro into the scene myself, so I'm getting to know you, hear about your story, then I hear about God City, and I kind of start hearing about the what's the one I'm looking for, the mantra behind them, 704 God City. I want you to break down that saying, the G-O-D and God City, kind of formulating that crew, because I do believe crews are a big part of Charlotte as a whole, but I do want you to go ahead and give me a breakdown of God City and you guys kind of mantra, if you can.
So yeah, the breakdown, so the original crew was me, Antoine Williams, John Hairston Jr., and Wally Vinyl, or Wally McNair.
Shout out Wally,
so,
yes sir.
Back in the day, I used to work at this art store called Binders. One day, like I think I had just graduated. John and Antoine were at UNCC, and we were doing a comic book con. We were doing Heroes Con. It's probably like 03, 04. And I had like an independent comic. Wally. We were kind of making these comic books, and we just kind of became this crew. Like I had this apartment in Noda. And, we would all meet up in Noda, like it's, right behind the dog bar. It was called Mecklenburg Mills at the time, but, we would just be like, we'd talk about art, talk about hip-hop, blasting, Black Star, To Live Quality, like, just looking at old movies. And we were watching City of God one day, and one of John Harrison's homies, he was like, we should break, we need a crew. Like, we were starting this art show called A Beautiful Struggle, Art of Hip-Hop. And we were like, God City, 704. The G is the seventh letter of the alphabet. Circle is full completion. D, fourth letter, 704. G-O-D, God City. So we just kind of like, we made a little logo for it, and then we just started bringing people in, and and the funny part was like, we were sort of like these comic book nerds, and then like, at night, Wally was a battle rapper, so we would be in the underground.
Yes, sir.
And Wally was, he was killing everybody. I used to joke with him, but
that's
like,
tough.
And there used to be people so mad, and then John Harrison had Potter's Field, like they were some dope MCs, Ami and Steve with the DJing. And so we were just kind of like, I guess some people looked at it as like this anomaly, but we were just being us. Like the fact that we could go, cats could go rip a mic at night and then show up and could talk about Spider-Man issue 7 the next day, and then go back out and then Wally slay somebody and have cats in the bathroom ready to fight us, you know, gun, you know.
Wow.
See? And, you know, like, and it was as simple as, like, you know, like, I remember Wally just rapping about, like, pulling out his MVP card at Food Lion, and dudes was on the stage making it rain and throwing money, and we were just like different cats, but like, but we could relate, you know, like, I guess, you know, like in art terms, we're like very accessible. And then I even want to shout out that Armada show where I met you at, Francisco, rest in peace, because Francisco reached out to me and he was like, yo, man, like, you know, what's up with this guy's city? Can I come meet? And I remember it would be so many meetings. And, you know, I guess, like, you know, I would be like, yo, we're going to be up at Common Market, come through. Yep. And it was so many times where he wouldn't come through. And he would be like, yo, I just rolled past. Man, y'all was looking so intimidating, man. I ain't want to, you know, I was like, come on, we chill. Sure. But I ended up, you know, I love Francisco's work. Josh Henderson, man, to this day, you know, I love that brother. And I remember, like, they got that first art show at Armada, and I made sure I was going to come out. And that's when I met, like, all y'all cats and Phaser Gang. And y'all reminded me so much of, like, who we were. Because y'all were, like, just these dope artists, man. And, I don't like to, like, put a box on art because it's, like, Cass was rapping. Cass was, you know, even like Fields, you know, like Fields, like with the beats, and like Josh was drawing, and it just reminded me so much. And this probably was like, I feel like this might have been 2010.
And that's around that time. Yep.
Yeah. And then a super shout out to Armada Skate Shop. Absolutely. They just moved to Camp North. Yes, sir. The homie Polo Pat, and I just did a print drop there last year.
Whoa,
with the McCall Center across the street. So, you know, that was like a full circle thing, man. Absolutely. So I feel like honoring, you know, all y'all homies and doing that kind of stuff. So yeah,
100%. Nah, shout out Patrick, and that's what I mean. Like that's the history that and the lore that's so important. That's always needed in a place like Charlotte, because Charlotte has so many talented people, so many businesses that have supported the community. And again, that's been a big part of your journey, and your message has always been community and showcasing that through your art. At what point in time, well, first off, I always ask this of artists, is your style and your technique, is that something that you learned textbook wise, or is that something that of course naturally just came about? How did your love for art and your ability for art kind of just start coming about for you?
So I think it's a little of both. I did have I went to Art Institute. Wally was at Art Institute. That's how I knew all them cats.
Understood.
I was actually in like one of the first graphic or digital design classes to graduate from Art Institute.
That's crazy.
So I was like, when the year that joint opened, like I was like, oh, I was
in there
because I was supposed to go to Western Carolina, and I was like, I ended up staying in Charlotte, but like it was either Western Carolina or Winston-Salem State. And, my homie Gerard Polk, I was talking about this the other day. Gerard Polk also has a studio in the Vapa down the hall.
Yes, sir.
A dope illustrator. He was like, yo, they just opened this new school. It's geared towards design. Yo, you might want to come, you want to check it out, because he was in there too. So a lot of my work is branched off of like graphic design with like that whole, storytelling aspect from comic books. So yeah,
absolutely. What has been your favorite cartoons and comic books that you read and watched coming up? I gotta know.
Oh man. So it's one thing now that I hadn't checked out yet. There's the Absolute Batman.
I haven't heard that either. I haven't seen it either, but yeah, it sounds crazy.
Check that. And man, I'm trying to go back down the anime spot of Ninja Scrolls.
Yes, sir.
I've been studying, because I'm working on an animated series now, but I've been studying Akira.
Yes, sir.
And literally,
yes, sir.
I got the books at home. I got the coffee table book of the storyboards and how they produced Akira. And it's like 144,000 drawings, hand painted backgrounds. So like literally, man, I spend so much time like looking up that Akira and like trying to like put that stuff into like this quick animated short that I'm trying to build.
100%. And matter of fact, perfect transition. I'm glad you brought that up. Your animated series, I believe, is of the Black Starfighter, correct? Mm-hmm. So the craziest thing is that's been years in the making, and again, I've been grateful to kind of, and I don't even think I saw like the very beginning, but I've seen when I've known you and seen you start putting it together. The visuals that you have put together for the Black Starfighter series has been insane. Go ahead, give the audience a rundown of what the Black Starfighter series is and how it's transgressed from beginning to where you're at now.
So real quick, it was me, Jason Woodbury, Quentin Talley, have an exhibit called Intergalactic Soul, which started in 2014.
Yes, sir.
Opened at the Gantt Center, and it's like an Afrofuturistic exhibit. And the Last Black Starfighter is a part of that story.
Yes, sir.
Intergalactic Soul it was started in response to the Mike Brown murder in Ferguson, Missouri, and we created this whole multimedia exhibit around 2 young black astronauts traveling through space. And they're encountering like these social and political and racial issues. Like there's aliens that look like KKK, there's Jim Crow robots. But, you know, we fixed it for like a contemporary art space.
Absolutely.
So it's almost like if you think of like an anime or a comic book, but it's hanging on the walls of the Mint Museum or the MoMA, or, you know, like a lot of these contemporary art spaces. So the Last Black Starfighter, like I created that. While these 2 astronauts are traveling through space, this is the comic book that they read when they're on the ship together,
Absolutely.
or the TV show that they watch. So it's like a whole subset from Intergalactic Soul. So yeah, I've been, you know, that started off as just kind of like these like standard pieces that were kind of complementing the art exhibit, and then like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, people were like, "Man, you should just make this into like a comic book. This 100%. Is dope." Mm-hmm. I even made like 3D printed toys. We built a video game from it,
yes,
like
sir.
an Atari style shooter. And then like now, you know, I just kind of been like, yo, like I really want to, like this would be dope if it was animated. But it's just like, I'm taking it as a fun project now.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Is this something that, because I mean, you've got Intergalactic Soul going in so many, and I say this is the best way, you got it going in so many directions, from it just being actual fine art to going into, again, multimedia, you know, having the Last Black Starfighter, doing games, things of that nature. Are you, of course, your hands on with everything. When it starts getting outside of just illustration and things like that, are you making the games? Are you, one of the big things I always tell people, one of the first pieces that I ever saw from you that blew my mind, you had created your own cereal box. With I forgot what it was called, Alienos or something like that.
Cosmic Crunch.
There you go, exactly.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was just like, this man legitimately made his own cereal box. Basically, could have made his own cereal, and it just opened up my mind to the different options that you could take with this. Or how are you doing a lot of this yourself, or when you start getting outside the illustration, are you pulling in different people, different mediums and things like that to collaborate with? And also, how do you choose those people if you are?
Yeah, so the Cosmic Culture Crunch, which was like KKK, that was a satire for the show. It's talking about how, you know, like cereal was used to infect kids' minds. And, you know, I'm an 80s kid, so,
yes,
you know, growing up, it was the most sugary, unhealthiest stuff.
The best time.
But, so that's where my background in graphic design and marketing came in.
Sir.
So like the cereal box, yeah, I produced that myself. Everything that you've seen from Last Black Starfighter so far has been all me, except for when we built the video game, I tapped in with Alexander Newman Hall. He helped me do some of the programming on the video game. But me and Jason Woodbury, Jason's also he's also a program developer as well. So like we kind of just work back and forth. But the more I go into this animation is a lot. Like
yes.
for what I want to see.
Yes.
Like when I'm looking at like this anime stuff, and I'm, you know, I make sure that I look at the credits. When I'm watching Samurai Champloo, I'm like, damn, that's so dope. And I think about, and I'm starting to notice how much goes into, you know, a 30-minute show, let alone a 90-minute movie, or let alone like a 15-minute show. Like with Intergalactic Soul, because Quentin Talley, we got a whole live band that's doing music. We got, you know, Jason created his own language, like his own script. We were using augmented reality. So a lot of this stuff, we were just kind of, the three of us just sort of we're just figuring things out and learning it ourselves. That's probably why it took 10 years, because I done broke a few. And there's some stuff, I was looking through old stuff this morning, like, oh, okay, I might need to go revisit that. Mm-hmm. But as far as like when we get to the point of, so I was in Thailand last year. I was in Asia, so I met with a few animation companies out there. So I think, I'm going to have to bring some people in for like, and then step back and just kind of be creative director on some of this stuff. But everything so far has been all me, but I'm getting tired. I'm an old man, so.
You can't carry the entire world on your shoulders, especially when you don't have to, man. Somebody like you've been so tapped in and connected, again, outside of just Charlotte, outside of the state, the country. You've been able to make those moves and be outside of Charlotte, which I think is always a big thing with the city. Is a lot of people here, whether they're from Charlotte or not, it always seems like they're trying to get out of the city, out of the Carolinas. Have you, as a creator yourself, has that bug ever hit you to where it's like, I'm trying to get out of Charlotte, I have to get out of Charlotte, and I got to be on the other side of the country or out of the country? Like, how has that ever bitten you to the point where you had to like just leave and get out of here, or has it been like more of a natural calling?
I think that's a good question, man. I think it's a natural calling. Because, like I did a lot of traveling last year. The past 2 years, I've traveled more than I have in my life, especially internationally.
Sir.
But like the world is such a small place now, because it's not like it was in the 90s, or it's not even like it was in 2005. Like you literally, like we got social media now, like we get, and especially like one of my inspirations was foreign exchange with Fonte.
Yes, sir.
And Nicolay.
Absolutely.
And the way those brothers collaborated on that foreign exchange project when he was in Europe and Fonte was in Durham, that was that's like almost 10 years ago. So like the world is so much smaller now, and sometimes I do have the bug to travel, but I also have a house here, so
that part, yeah.
So I'm kind of rooted here too, and even like last year, I was out of the country for like 3 months or so.
Wow, absolutely.
But like, but just I don't know. Like sometimes I'm like I need to get out and see things, but then also I'm like I could also see things if I just get on Instagram, and that's not the same.
Sir. Absolutely,
it's definitely not the same, but. But if you're making enough noise, I always say, like, man, if you being dope and you moving the right way, the right people will find you and the right energy will find you, like, no matter where you are. Because I done had some opportunities just being in Charlotte that I never thought I would have gotten.
Absolutely.
And then those people, it'll be people hitting me up like, yo, where are you located? Or, I thought you was in New York. And
exactly.
I'm like, no, I'm in Charlotte. Or
yes,
like,
sir.
So like, man, I just say like, I'm just trying to be dope and just trying to like keep moving like all of us. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How important is it in the sense of being a creative? Is it being from Charlotte? Because again, we talk about it a lot. I feel like the city is one of those places where, and honestly, it's just starting to bubble up now. We're starting to get a lot more eyes than we've ever had on us, probably in the past 10 years. Further from different reasons, music, movies. It's a lot more attention on the city now more than ever. And it's one of those things where, again, how has it been to kind of utilize those eyes? Because I've also been able to see you work in classes, work in schools. You said you had other opportunities. You work with some high end, big time clientele. How has it been transitioning through that, being able to work in different aspects from classrooms to corporate?
Yeah, I would say for me, it's people will always come first. Community always. And when I mean community, man, I mean like even just me meeting y'all at Armada. We were at another thing we talking about. It was like Ninth Wonders thing.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I would absolutely
seeing you out there, but like I never move with, like, to me everybody's the same. Whether I'm talking to FaZe guy or Jay-Z, y'all the same. Y'all the same, bro. Like energies. Well, I don't know Jay-Z personally, but like people are people.
For sure. Definitely.
Like I don't care. Like I never approached anything with like, wondering like how much bread that cat got. like I'm just moving off pure energy. Because, you know, I could go outside and meet somebody walking on the street that could be one of the dopest people ever. And I'm the same way. Like, people don't know, like, as far as my graphic design background, like, a lot of people don't know a lot of the work that I've done. I don't even post a lot of graphics, but I've got stuff with Adidas and Nike and, you know, just low-end stuff, like low-key stuff. But then, like, it ain't the Last Black Starfighter, though. You know, that's my
that part.
stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Like, you know, that's like even like corporate work. Like, I worked at Family Dollar corporate.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
we were designing all of that packaging design.
That's tough.
To that, you know, that marketing team out there. But like, but I'm just moving off energy, man, and it's just like, I look at everybody as everybody, and, you know, like, and I always tell people, as long as you move with purpose and integrity, like, you know, you'll be in a good space. And like that whole community aspect, I'm always talking, you know, I go back to West Charlotte a lot to talk to them kids. I'm going to JT Williams next week, and, you know, I'm working on a project out in New Bern, North Carolina now, like working with that community out there. So it's always important that's what my give back looks like. And to me, like, man, like the money, like I'm not rich. Well, I say I'm rich based on not like my bank account,
of course,
but it's like, how do you give back, and especially like how do you show up for the people that need you the most? And like, you know, like that's the thing for me. So yeah,
100%. Nah, that's heavy, Marcus. I definitely appreciate that. And then and you open up those doors and those opportunities and with open arms, and that's always been something that I've noticed with you. And a misconception that I think a lot of people get from all artists and creatives is like, you know, people can be standoffish, and some people are, but I think that's definitely not been something that I've ever received from you or seen you do with other people, you know, be standoffish. You've always opened up yourself and been, like you said earlier, accessible. You've always been accessible. What we're going to do now is we're going to switch gears just a little bit, because I definitely want to know, we're going to go to this segment that we call How Heavy is the Crown? And what that is basically asking you what part of your creative journey, your creative lifestyle, or just your technique where you don't, a lot of people don't see from you, and you want them to know, and you want them to understand just a little bit more, like something that's hidden behind that you kind of want to just showcase just a little bit more that they might not understand from you.
Man, that's a good question too.
Yes, sir.
Something that I want somebody to know that, you know, most people don't know. Man, I think, you know, I call myself a nerd. We kind of got rid of the term nerd. We call ourselves champions.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Me and Wally and John. Yes, and like, man, if I wasn't here right now, I'd probably be at home studying that Akira art book, or either playing PlayStation 5 or something like
yes,
that,
sir.
man. Like, that's what I loved about Josh and Fields and them cats, man. But yeah, I'm such a low-key dude, man. I'm just trying to continue doing the work that, you know, trying to make my parents proud. You know, rest in peace to my parents.
Yes, sir.
And like, you know, I don't know, you know, I try to be a transparent person, but yeah, I guess I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. I guess I'm just low-key like a nerd, I guess. I'm a real quiet dude. Yeah, I don't do a lot. I don't be out a lot, you know, even though like I support so many of these local things, but like, you know, I much rather just be at home in my living room, chilling, drinking a Coke Zero.
100%.
Just chilling, man. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Humility is what that really sounds like, man. And something that I've always got from you is just this humble giant where, you know, you go in the room and your name really does speak volumes. You know, Kiser Corp is something that I think is one of the coolest things I've seen you work through. You've put up, and just seeing you out and about, moving the rooms that you've moved in. Your name does ring bells, and not almost everywhere you go, you're recognized, right? So it's just one of those things where it always comes down to, like you were saying, giving back the community. And again, it's always something that we see from you, again, as that OG, as somebody that can point you to the next thing. Because I've always felt I've always had the ability to come talk with you. And, you know, that's why I'm always grateful. Anytime we see each other, we chop it up. And I'm like, you know, what are you working on? What you got going on? And you ask me the same thing. A lot of people don't do that. They kind of just, you know, they one side the situation. Well, you know, I'm doing this. I got this going on. I'm traveling here. I'm moving and shaking, you know. And then, you know, after that, I'm going to holler at you later. But with you, and something that I've always seen, not just from myself but from others, is you ask, you say, well, what you got going on? What have you been working on? We had that conversation, and then you was like, well, you point out to the right direction. Well, you're working on that. Talk to these folks over here. I actually remember one of the times we actually had a luncheon, and I think it was the first time I met Jason Woodbury. We were over there off of Central. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, and again, taking that time just to let a young brother like me trying to find that route, trying to find that, you took that time, sat me down, and we just talked. We talked about the same thing: anime, comics, shows, events, and it was just like talking to my uncle. Talking to family, and it really felt like that, you and Jason. So that's something that I think is desperately needed in the city. But again, goes back into what you were saying. You guys are we don't want to say nerds, we want to say champions, the quiet champions in the back, moving the strings, moving the levers, having the classes teaching, relaying that information. We were talking about a couple episodes ago about gatekeeping. I think, and especially, and I would actually love to know your thoughts on this as well, because Charlotte is almost notorious with that gatekeeping term, right? It's always like there's information that is there that it's almost needed to find success in the city of Charlotte in particular, and only a few people seem to either have that information or utilize the information for their success, and it's only seems to only come from certain people within the city. You seeing how the city has changed and how the landscape has changed with different people, is that gatekeeping thing a real thing that is happening in the city and that you might have experienced, or is this just something that again, artists may or may not have kind of just cooked up to kind of not be accountable for their lack of work?
So yeah, the gatekeeping definitely is a real thing. I don't consider myself a gatekeeper. So to go back when you made the comment about like how some artists move, or like they don't really want to rock with certain people like that, because we've turned art into this very exclusive thing, right? Like visual art, music, like people have made it so exclusive, and it should be like an inclusive thing.
Absolutely.
Like, my purpose is to get everybody into like, what you do, like you a poet, you, even me with like coming from a graphic design background, like there's so much, like I'm like, okay, we all belong in the space. And I'm like, there's no information, like I would never hide information from anyone. But that's how I move, because I understand that like there are things that we're doing that are much bigger than ourselves, right? Like this journey that I'm on, like the purpose of Last Black Starfighter is to educate people on colonization and gentrification. And I take that personal, because God City was pushed out of Nodar because of gentrification.
Talk to him.
So
yes, sir.
I'm looking at like a lot of these places what we call Druid Hills and we call Udville, which is now Camp North End, and I'm looking at like how certain people who made those spaces really dope, like now all of a sudden like the creativity is being pushed out.
Absolutely.
The same, there's the big argument going on the west side with 77 cutting into McCrory Heights. You're taking away certain, and I feel like, art is the backbone to any major city, any major society. And when you start to push artists out, like the stuff just starts to get bland. So especially, I don't really believe in the gatekeeping, and I think people that are gatekeeping, like I don't know why, especially gatekeeping in a place like Charlotte, like this is fresh. Like, this is new. Like, I don't even get gatekeeping. Like, we spent the summer on the south side of Chicago, and I met so many dope artists out there and, like, some of the work that they were doing. And I was like, imagine somebody trying to keep this all for themselves.
Absolutely.
Like, I believe in, like, that whole community effort. Like, even with, like, projects I'm working on, like, most of my stuff has been collaborative stuff. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm figuring out ways, like, like how can I was just talking to Dia about, how can I bring you in as a writer?
Yes, sir.
How can I use Phase Guy on a track for this, for a closing? How can I use, me and Jason, like it's always about like, that's community to me, right? And I don't believe like, and my stuff is community focused. So like, I don't got like a lot of respect for people that are gatekeeping, and it definitely is a lot of gatekeeping here, but I'm like, what are you what are you hiding? And also, I don't move in fear out here. Like, I'm not afraid of losing any opportunity, because I know, like, the universe will bless you with if you move in the right way. Like I said from the beginning, you'll get those opportunities back. So, I ain't calling no names right now about certain situations I've been in, but like I just kind of, I'm the kind of person that'll be like, oh, okay, so you acting like that over here. I'm gonna move this way, and this whole. I'm blessed. If I told somebody the other day, I was like, if I never put pen to pad again or make another art show ever again, like, I'm happy about what I've been able to do in the past 20 years. Like, I might not ever be a millionaire, as far as financial wise.
Yes, sir.
But like being able to be in a space to meet dope cats like y'all, for us to even be like, remember 10 years ago at Armada, and remember Francisco, and remember when we were doing this, and if it wasn't for you doing this, this wouldn't be here, or if it wasn't for that wouldn't exist.
That's
like
real.
That's how you keep the wave going, and I'm always like so against gatekeeping. I'm like inclusive. Like, how do we all move together as a unit and be dope?
Absolutely. With that being said, again, you've had the opportunity to see decades of growth in the city of Charlotte and outside of that. What are some of the again, this kind of transitions to another part. Who do you see passing the crown down to, as far as some of the other upcoming artists, or some of the the creatives that you've had the ability to see over your time? Who are the people that we should really be paying attention to, looking out for? Some of the people that you kind of have been leaning into, favoriting, things of that nature.
Man, so you mentioned us meeting at Kickstand the other day.
Sir.
I gotta shout out my homie Justin Hazelton.
I got you.
He was with us back in the day, and to see what he's doing with Lorem Ipsum, and because that's Kickstand.
Yes, sir.
That's Lorem Ipsum now. It used to be Kickstand, and we had so many meetings over there and like just hanging out over there. But to see how that brother been moving, and how he infiltrated the whole drink industry through artistry.
Yes, sir.
I remember him DJing. He DJ'd one of our first art shows. So
wow.
I want to shout him out. His brother Gerard, like you, of course. I always go back to like your video where the train, you were rapping with the train in the background.
Yes, sir.
And I was like, oh, who this cat?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And I ended up like, I think I met you first, and then I saw that video, and I was like, yo, like, but just like, it's so much dope creativity, man. Like, I love what Do Greater Charlotte is doing.
Yes, sir.
It's so many graphic designers out here that, I'm like, okay, like I'll support, like, yo, let me know. And even like a lot of the community work, like QC Family Trees doing
100%.
on the West End, and like just looking at like so many of these younger dope artists. Even like Charlotte is Creative, like looking at like how they support the scene, and I'm kind of like in the background always cheering, even Will and Damn It Wesley over at Black Market, to see them brothers, like knowing them back in the day, like seeing what they doing. I was in the residency with Will, so just and I being in the Black Carolina residency with him just seeing how he's taking that whole multimedia design approach, like I'm a fan, and like and I gotta shout my women out too.
Please,
like,
yes, please.
I gotta shout the women out. It's International Women's Day, so Michaela Benter, and man, I love me some Afeni over at the Gantt.
100%.
Afeni with doing the work that she's doing. Mia, like Tamara, all of the people that I was in the residency with, and like the Jessica Mosses of the world, and like I'm working with a sister right now, and I know I'm going outside of Charlotte.
No, please do. All of them.
I'm working with a sister in Brooklyn, Khadijah. Me and her about to do this print drop for Women's History Month, and I met her in Senegal on a boat.
That's
in
crazy.
Senegal.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So
wow.
Man, I'm so proud of like the younger creatives too. And now I kind of could just get out the way and like let them do their stuff. So yeah,
absolutely. And you know what? That's a big thing. And for you to say that, I think you kind of have to clarify, because a lot of people take that stay out the way as like giving up. Like, I'm not going to do anything anymore. I'm just. But it kind of is like a passing of the torch. It kind of is like, listen, you guys got it. We opened the doors. We did what we had to do. You've made your stamp, because you're for sure stamped in the city and outside the city, just city. Just doing what you've been doing all this time. And now again, you've been able to see some of the other, like you said, younger artists come up, hit those same rooms, and if not bigger rooms. And then of course you are there front and center, ready to show love. So that, again, that's huge and that's major. But with that being said, aside from stepping out the way, you're still putting your stuff out there. You're still going. You're still putting out new stuff. What can we expect from you? What are you most excited for moving forward as you continue your journey?
So of course that Last Black Starfighter project, I be taking my sweet time. People say it's like Dr. Dre with the Detox album, man. People are like, when it's coming out, when you dropping it? And I just literally, I got like storyboards, and I'm just like, okay.
So let me ask you, what is the final, because I'm glad you brought that out. What does the final look of Intergalactic Soul and the Last Black Starfighter look like? Is it hitting all the check notes of multimedia, or is there like an actual end to the story and the end to the series?
So right now it's kind of the exhibition is on hold.
Gotcha.
But as far as like the whole, I don't think there's a final thing. We just, Jason mentioned it a while back. He was like, it just keeps evolving.
Absolutely.
But the crazy part about like that work, which is work within social justice, like, can I cuss on here?
Absolutely, please.
Like, it's like shit keep going on
Yes,
in the
sir.
world. So
Please.
it's like, yo, it'll never, I'm like, damn, like every time you think you get to a point where you're like, well, damn, like now we got it. Not saying like, we don't have to respond to everything.
Of course.
But I'm just like damn, again.
Yes,
like,
sir.
and I'm just like, okay, like maybe we add this into the story or maybe we do that. But like, it's still just sort of evolving. Like it went from just these pieces on the wall to like, the breakfast, the cereal box installation, to the animation, to like the whole theatrical show that, we had a whole theater production around it.
Word. I didn't know that. That's
we
crazy.
did the last one in Greensboro.
Word.
That was 2024. So last year we were kind of on hiatus.
Understood.
But right now I would like to focus on like the actual theatrical part,
Sir.
And like the whole musical thing versus that. But yeah, it's just like, I'm gonna just say it's gonna keep evolving.
Understood.
Yeah.
I got you. Can we expect some other series outside of that? Like, are we working on different things that are outside of the Intergalactic Soul and Last Black Starfighter universe?
Yeah. So right now, as far as like my regular art practice, I'm doing public art. Like I'm working on. So back in my old neighborhood, shout out to Hidden Valley.
Yes, sir.
Sugar Creek.
Yes, sir.
We love us some Sugar Creek.
Come on now.
But, I'm working with the Charlotte Urban Design Center doing a monument out there. Ooh. They're building a new set of townhomes off of I-85, which is it's probably like a block away from where my parents' home was, my childhood home was. My parents moved over there in like 1983.
Damn.
Like 84. It's a whole different area back then, but I'm working on a public art sculpture. I call it a monument. I want to dedicate that one to my parents.
Yes, sir.
And then I'm also working with building a monument out in New Bern, North Carolina, with another artist, Georgie Nakima. You guys know her.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
Stephen Hayes. So
Yes,
we're working on like a huge project out there, honoring like black artisans of like that coastal area. So those are like the two main things I'm working on now. And then other than that, man, just trying to be a solid person. That's about it.
Hey, man. Well, you've been successful at that since I've known you. So,
Thank
again,
you.
Marcus, I'm beyond grateful for you. Before we wrap this thing up, do you have any last words of encouragement, advice for any of the young creatives that we're looking to crown out here?
Man, I want to say thank you, brother. Thank this gorgeous team.
Of course.
Well, it's always been an honor. Every time I see you, it's love. And every time, and man, I smile a little bit more whenever I see you doing a show, whether it be Doomsday. I love how you tapped into the whole Doomsday. And
yes,
shout out to Dia.
Yes, sir.
Because a lot of those artists in Doomsday, man, like, I saw them as younger creators too, like Xavier doing the
Yes, sir.
poetry
Yes,
and
sir.
stuff. I love Xavier. But yeah, man, just want to shout out. I think I posted something on my threads yesterday. I think I'm at like 1,000 views now.
Oof.
But I pretty much just said, look, like in this world that we're in now, everybody's caught up in being a brand. Everybody wants to be a brand. Everything is transactional. But everything doesn't have to be transactional. I just said, like, instead of being a brand, just focus on being a good person, man. And, like, the key to being a dope brand is authenticity anyway and truth. And if you move with purpose and integrity, like, that's the best thing you could do, man. To build, like, when you mention people mentioning me in rooms, like, I didn't know people mention me in rooms.
Come on now.
I'm just moving through and just being myself and just trying, like, to be. And that's not to say I'm not the perfect person. None of us are perfect. But, like, we know, like, the universal terms of, like, being a solid person.
Absolutely.
So anything, like, I've never been a transactional person. Like, you could have hit me up and I could have been like, yo, like, what's the check?
Exactly. You know how much it's going to cost me. No, time is money.
Nah, but I know, like, because you've been a solid person. Me and you always been solid, man.
Now.
So, like, like, I just tell the people, like, yo, move with honesty, a dope integrity, and move with purpose, man. And you'll get everything you need.
Amen, man. I've seen it happen, and it's happened to me. And again, that's all because I'm intertwined with some incredible people. You being one of the first people, one of the main people included. So, Marcus, again, I appreciate you immensely. Before we get up out of here, please make sure to let the people know where they can find you at, how they can follow you, how they can support you, please.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Marcus Kiser, MARCUS_KISER, and my website is kisercorp.me, KISERCORP.me.
Amen.
So, yeah.
Yes, sir. Again, Marcus Kiser, we appreciate you for coming out here rocking with us. Again, my name is Tony B. the Phase Guy. This has been the Creative's Crown. We appreciate you. Shouts out to the Miss Label production behind the scenes. Again, Nick, Evan, appreciate you all. Shouts out for artists, by artists. Again, a platform to help showcase these artists that are working, like my dog, the one and only Marcus Kiser. Please make sure you tap in with my OG. Make sure you tap in with Miss Label. Tap in with For Artists by Artists. Tap in with me as Tony B. the Phase Guy. Until next time, we're going to see y'all later. Much love. Appreciate y'all.